Right, I'm just going to get started. If people want to join, then they're welcome to. Um, George, I was just saying to Sam and Oscar that basically it's all muted and videos will be turned off. If you have any questions throughout, just pop them in the chat section, and I'll get through them kind of from the top down. But yeah, I'll just share my screen. People see that? You can just put like a yes or a no in there. That'd be bless. Calm. Right. So I'll start on DXY. What I'll do on these lives is because I primarily I trade GU and EU. I would kind of just look at DXY and do a bit of analysis on EU and GU, with a little bit more weight on EU, just given the pairing it has or the weighting it has with dollar index. But yeah, so we'll start on the dollar. I tend to not zoom out too much, but given how price has been ranging, given what we've been seeing recently around a lot of losses and such, it's just key to kind of remember that we've actually been ranging for like almost a year flat since May 2025. So in terms of weekly direction, there's not a massive amount of narrative to go off there. So that's just to bear in mind. But in terms of close price action, we had this fair value gap as a point of interest, which was kind of inside or in our demand zone on the bullish swing, and we're starting to get quite a nice reaction on the daily. And we go 4 hours, we can really starting to get that push. At least we're targeting these highs as a near-term draw. So if I was thinking in terms of narrative for next week, I'd be looking at price taking these highs first. You know how we've been opening up a lot of the time throughout the last few months. Price has just been gapping on the Monday open. So I wouldn't be surprised if we gap up, take these highs, and then start trickling down before some sort of larger move around midweek. And that might look something like up into some of these kind of fair value gaps in here, especially this one that broke structure, before we either get price trading lower or eventually price trading higher. From an hourly perspective, this is kind of hourly is a little bit irrelevant at this stage, but in terms of breaking down the structure that is present, we've actually got quite a nice AMD model playing out. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with Power of Three or AMD, but essentially, see accumulation before a manipulation and essentially distribution in the other direction. So this could be the start, reaffirming looks like reaffirming any bullish confirmations that we could be at the bottom of this move now. So essentially we've had that manipulation. We've inversed this gap, which was probably, I think it was news on Friday. Trump announced something. He seems to be just announcing anything he wants at the moment, but he announced something, we've corrected, and we're starting to push into our distribution phase. So what I'd be looking at for DXY is to essentially see price just start trading higher and essentially just making our higher highs, higher lows. But yet to get more confirmation on that. We could always see price run this and come lower, but essentially that's the narrative in terms of DXY. Switch over to EU now. Again on the weekly, just look at that. And this is the reason I don't tend to get stuck or get hooked on the higher time frames, especially when I typically use the 5 minutes to get in and out of positions. This is just it's not brilliant, albeit this right now is quite nice in terms of how we've expanded. We have this gap that we're reacting from, but again, it's just not worth getting yourself hooked up on timeframes that don't necessarily align to when you're actually getting in and out of the market. But that being said, we're in the premium of this daily swing. We're reacting from the gap, which is again quite nice. Massive wick taking out all of these early sellers. And I think we also have AMD moving on the other side. So again, really nice model playing out in terms of, I think it's more so on the hourly. See how AMD would be from this high to this low where price failed to do anything in. this being our manipulation, and price is already starting to, it was already taken out this low. So we do actually have SMT with DXY here, I believe. Yeah, where DXY hasn't actually taken out this high yet, the EU has. So that's essentially telling us the EU is moving a lot quicker than anticipated. Yeah, that. So again, EU's moving out of a POI really nicely on the 4-hourly, the daily. We've got this AMD model playing out. What I'd want to see is price to continue flushing. We've got all these inefficiencies that price is going to be drawn to. I want to see some sort of reaction into here and then start trading lower. That would be my higher time frame kind of high conviction play. Still taking a break from GU. I just don't like GU at the moment because I will still take it. The data says that it will be profitable in the long run in terms of the historical trades I've taken in back testing, but also from my live trading. But this year it just has not been as effective compared to EU. So I tend to be prioritizing EU. If I get an SMT between the two and it's clearly telling me that GU is the bearish pair, and I'm getting bearish confidence on GU, then I will take it. That's ultimately when I get, that's the psychological challenge, is to, do you trust your data or go off intuition? And 9 times out of 10, intuition loses when it comes to using a data-backed approach. So just got to push through that and constantly refine and look at your data. So yeah, essentially, I am still trading it, just preferring EU essentially if both appear. So that's EU. I'll leave arrow out on what I'd like to see in terms of this. In terms of the draws to the downside, we've obviously got these lows down here from this unbalanced price action. And that goes all the way to here, essentially. That's if we really do start moving bearish. And again, you could catch some really nice pushes here. So that's EU and GU done. We'll look on GU now, or EU and DXY, sorry. Just look at that. Fucking shit in it. Actually horrible. But if we zoom in, we did get this break, or you can say like a weekly change in state in terms of how price pushed up, and now it's obviously started filling down. We filled this gap in here, and essentially, just like EU and DXY, we're at a premium. We're reacting quite nicely. We've taken out this internal range liquidity in the form of this high. IRL reacted to a daily fair value gap. Oh my god, because this is up here, I keep pressing the wrong thing. Let's do that. So reacting out of a POI on the daily, 4-hourly. We've got S&T at the lows again with EU, but so ultimately EU is the weaker pair. But this was that Trump news that I was talking about, manipulated up and has already corrected and started going bearish again. I believe this was a 1-hour POI in here as well that I was looking to trade away from, but just got no confirmation on Friday. So we were respecting that, and we've taken out all these sellers or aggressive buyers as well. So again, confirmation that we are starting to roll over bearish. So I would be looking to essentially take sells next week unless we get something else kind of telling us otherwise. So near-term target is going to be this, but again, like I was saying, we're just gapping out on Mondays a lot of the time at the moment. Price is just gapping past the draw into the POI, which is where a lot of people are getting caught in the opposite direction when its true direction is to continue flushing down. So ultimately, if we push down or gap down, we might get a slight retracement. I'd be really surprised if we actually get a full retracement all the way back into here. But ultimately, I would see price just continuing down all the way to these lows. If well, not necessarily all of next week, but that would be the higher time frame play. Because just look at all these targets to the left. There's so much inefficient price action that is waiting to get filled. So I'll just draw out my last in here. So in terms of what I usually do on Sunday analysis is give a few scenarios on what could happen. So obviously we get this, we get a small retracement, retest and push lower. The other scenario is that we're completely wrong and price ultimately just starts pushing to the upside. And that closest draw would be a previous week high. So if we do start trading bullish, arguably we are still accumulating in this zone. So if GU is the bullish pair and we do start trading up, we could look to take longs towards these previous week highs. But just what would look nicer and makes a little bit more sense from a higher time frame perspective is for the price to just start trading lower. So yeah, that applies to EU as well, except EU has actually started. EU has broken this low, so sales would be more viable, in my opinion. Is there any questions on that? I know there's not many people. Obviously, it's still early days with Stella and such, but there will be more people joining these on a regular basis. So do make the most of them, especially with the free ones. When I get more people basically join in on a regular basis, there'll be 2 free lives a week, but the rest will be signed off to mentees only, just for awareness. With this current setup, would you still look for potential buyers as a retracement if the mech plays out? With EU, probably not. To be honest, just given like this leg just looks like it's just going to send. It would be like a lower probability position if mech played out, given it is the bearish pair. If we get a mech on GU, then it might have a little bit more strength, given that it is the stronger pair, and we're deep in this retracement as well of this bullish leg. So if there was a mech, I'd probably look to take in GU if it does hold above here. Otherwise, I'd be looking to stay clear. I'm also finding that with EU or just with mech at the moment in general, if it's not in a premium or a discount, it's just manipulating that extra bit, which is taking people out. I think that comes with the extra uncertainty that there is in the market at the moment. I'm just applying a slight bit more discretion when it comes to picking higher quality positions, and for me, this would be the weaker pair. So I wouldn't look to be buying this if GU is essentially presenting at the same time. If I hope that answers the question well enough. Calm. So yeah, I mean, I can do a little look back in terms of last week. I think there was mainly just continuation plays. What do we have? Monday 13th. This has been nothing really amazing, really, has there? I know some people have been catching, a lot of trend riders have been catching some nice positions, but I actually took an EU loss in here. I think it was about here, because ultimately that was where the trend was going, but we had this massive gap to fill. So this position was actually really nice on the Monday. Late price through, or even here. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with continuation or mech setup, but continuation is essentially continuing in the current trend or in the current price, looking for a lower time frame entry criteria at a POI within the internal range liquidity. So right here, you would have that inverse fair value gap. You'd wait for a reaction. So for example, would wait for a 3-minute change in state or such, which would be right in here. This didn't make another low, so it would be, well, ultimately the low would be here. I have to change state will be there. So 1 minute, yeah, you get a 1 minute change in state. Be slightly aggressive, but still relevant. You can either enter on here or a little bit higher. Stops below the POI. I think London actually got swept on this one, but that ultimately be the continuation of that day. Um, quite nice. I think it does get swept on this day actually. And you get entry later on, or maybe not. Oh, yeah, yeah, it was nice. You had to hold and not go break even early, but yeah, it would have been a nice continuation. Don't a lot of data Mondays. As in, like, do you use Monday as your confirmation day? Is that what you mean by, or no data Mondays? As in, like, lack of volume per se. Oh, okay, cool. I mean, a lot of people don't trade Mondays. To be fair, they wait for that as a confirmation for the week. Yeah, unless A plus. Yeah, I like that. I mean, this is a good example of why you wouldn't want to trade a Monday given the gap that was above it. But it's all about weighing it up. For me, I do trade Mondays just because I've got thousands of trades that tell me Mondays still produce a good return. So I guess it's just all in your data. And ultimately, if you're working a job or such, then if it's a lower win rate day, then it makes sense to take that off. Um, but yeah, unless I'll give another minute for any questions. But if that's that, I'll knock it on the head. I think we kind of, unless someone wants to go for another pair, then I can. But if that's that, then yeah, like I said, I'll knock it on the head and I'll post this. I think I have to make a new channel, but yeah, I'll post this in the community hub space as a recording for the guys that are in free. Um, and Sam, if you want it as a mentee, it'll be in free anyway, but the mentee ones will stay in the mentee lounge. So yeah, calm. All right, sounds good. Yeah, I hope you will have a good trading week. Manage risk effectively, stick to the plan. Don't do anything stupid. You know what it is. So, all right, calm. Cheers, boys. Shut up, Sam. No, you're not. On gold. Brilliant. Good to know you guys are good risk managers. All right, I'm cutting in a bit.